Okay, let's unpack this. We are staring down, well, a real paradox, aren't we? It sits right at that intersection of massive ambition, technology, and just sheer human need.
Mm.
The richest people on Earth, they can engineer rockets, they can build global communication networks, they're pushing AI forward. But here's the mission for us today. Can that same genius, that almost unlimited wealth, actually engineer a family?
Yeah.
A working, connected family?
That really is the core question, isn't it? It's what all the source material seems to point towards. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the records, the accounts detailing what the inner circle called Project X.
Right.
This really secretive, sprawling, tech-heavy real estate network near Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And this isn't just, rich person buys a big house kind of story. It's much more, it's a case study. A fascinating and frankly kind of tragic one.
Yeah.
But one man trying to apply technical solutions, financial solutions, the same way he builds cars, builds rockets to solve these incredibly deep human emotional problems.
And the numbers involved they're staggering. It almost feels surreal. We've got reports of this secret project when he publicly denied even owning, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely denied it.
Quietly racking up a reported total investment of, get this, more than $7.2 billion. That's billion with a B, in Texas, real estate, and everything associated.
$7.2 billion.
And here's the hook, the part that makes you just stop. Despite spending all that money, the sources say the owner, who wanted this to be a family haven, maybe used it 3 or 4 days. A year.
It's that dichotomy, that shocking contrast that really grabs you, doesn't it? On one side, you have this public image. He's cultivating the austere entrepreneur, sleeping in the factory, living simply.
Right. The minimalist billionaire.
Exactly. And then hidden behind this incredibly complex maze of finance and lawyers, there's this monumental high-tech facility that's like a multi-billion-dollar answer to feeling alone. It just shows the extreme lengths someone might go to using tech and money when what's really needed is, well, time. Emotional connection, not capital.
Okay, so let's start with the scale and just how they managed to hide this thing. Project X. It's not really one single mega mansion, is it? Even though there are big houses involved?
No, that's a key point. The sources describe it more like a whole secret network of properties, cleverly stitched together, hidden inside what was, a pretty typical wealthy neighborhood near Austin.
Okay.
The starting point, the anchor for it all, with this initial purchase, a beautiful Tuscan villa bought for $20 million. Reports then suggested that property alone, after some work, was valued maybe closer to $32 million.
Which sounds like a lot.
It is a lot, but honestly, it's just a tiny tip as a massive iceberg. That was just the way in, the foothold in the neighborhood.
Right, and that's where this $7.2 billion number starts to make a bit more sense. Because it's not just buying a few houses, it's much more complex.
Precisely. That astronomical total, it includes a whole bunch of things. There's the cost of buying up dozens of other properties right next door, basically forming a secure bubble. Very strategically. Then there are the huge construction costs. We're talking complex underground shelters, tunnels, connecting things, that kind of infrastructure. Add in military-grade security systems, advanced tech everywhere, bespoke tech, integrated across the whole complex. The sources pull all these costs together: property acquisition, construction, tech security, plus associated stock deals, other investments, feeding this real estate portfolio, and that's how they land on that staggering figure. Over $7 billion, $200 million.
Oh.
I mean, put it in perspective. That's like the annual GDP of some small countries. It's really infrastructure investment, not just buying a home.
Okay, when you frame it like national infrastructure, the need for secrecy, like extreme secrecy, starts to click. This whole thing, sources say it kicked off early 2023, and it was run like a covert Operation Formation, they called it. How on earth did they hide something that big right under everyone's noses?
Well, it was a masterclass in making things disappear, really. It took dedicated resources. They brought in high-powered lawyers and, crucially, private investigators. Their job was to set up this intricate web of shell companies, front companies.
It's just layers.
Layers upon layers. These companies existed only to buy up the properties around Austin. And the strategy was, well, surgical. They didn't try to lowball anyone. They paid way over market value, sometimes 20, even 30% more.
Ah, okay. That's a crucial detail. Why pay so much more?
It did two things. First, it was a huge carrot, right? Made sure the deals happened fast, smoothly. Owners saw a big premium they want to sell quick. That stops deals lingering, stops journalists sniffing around.
Makes sense.
Second, and this is probably the main point, it helped erase the buyer's identity. If some shell company offers you way over asking, you don't tend to ask too many questions about who is really behind it. The goal was absolute anonymity. untraceable.
And this need for anonymity, it ties right back to him publicly denying it all, doesn't it? Sources confirm, when whispers started about land deals, even before his name was linked, he flatly denied owning anything. He was desperately trying to protect that image, right? The austere businessman.
Oh, absolutely. The anti-billionaire billionaire living in a tiny prefab house.
Yeah, the $50,000 box story.
Exactly. And the deception went deep. Sources say his team was told to actually forge lease documents, things like that, to actively hide his connection to Project X, especially when the media started asking questions.
Wow.
It wasn't just about privacy. It was brand protection. The brand of the revolutionary, the guy sacrificing everything for the mission. It's such a stark contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Committing potential fraud to look austere while building a multi-billion-dollar fortress.
And that huge financial commitment, the complex legal cover-up, it links directly back to his state of mind, his professional life at the time. The sources connect the secrecy to the immense pressure he was under.
They really do. They paint this picture of just intense pressure. You're talking about a guy juggling 6 major companies, all interconnected, all demanding, working insane hours, like 120 hours a week.
Unbelievable.
And relying, the sources note, on prescription meds like Adderall, just to manage the anxiety, just to keep going at that pace. So this massive construction project is happening right alongside this period of just extreme professional and personal stress. That facade of simple living had to be protected, even while he was building this monument that was, at its heart, about a desperate need for family.
So if the scale felt corporate, the reason behind it was deeply personal. The sources are really clear. Project X wasn't just some whim, some luxury toy. It came directly out of a really painful family crisis, specifically back in 2022.
Yeah.
This wasn't vanity. Insiders say it was. Desperation, feeling alienated.
That's absolutely critical to understanding the why. The crisis had specific triggers, many of them public. It really kicked off when his daughter, Vivian, legally changed her name and publicly disowned him.
Right.
Said she didn't want to be related to him in any way, shape, or form.
Oof. That's rough. Publicly.
Very public, very brutal. And this was happening around the same time as a really difficult custody dispute with Grimes over their kids.
That kind of public rejection from your own child must have been just devastating. What do the sources say about how he reacted emotionally right then?
They pinpoint this one specific moment, apparently quite revealing. A late-night phone call with his brother, Kimball. The source says he just broke down, expressed feeling totally isolated, cut off from his children, this deep sense of loss that, no amount of success could fix.
And that moment, that breakdown, that's when the psychological shift happened.
That seems to be the pivot point.
Yeah. And this pivot, it led to what might be the most, shocking idea from the sources about his thinking. He actually reasoned that because he could engineer rockets and cars and complex systems, he should be able to engineer a family. Like, he saw emotional brokenness as an engineering problem, something needing a scalable tech solution.
The sources definitely confirm that mindset, that human connection could somehow be optimized through architecture, through technology.
Yeah.
If you just build the perfect container, the relationship output you want will just happen.
Wow.
And the solution itself followed that kind of systems logic. The actual architectural design, the initial proposal, came from Siobhan Zillis.
Right, the Neuralink executive.
And crucially, the mother of 3 of his children. So she had a direct stake, direct input into how it should be structured.
Okay, let's get into that proposed solution, Zillis's design. What was the core idea for how Project X would be laid out, how it would function?
Her design was very structured, almost clinical, you could say. The main idea was to kind of mandate closeness without forcing actual, messy emotional intimacy.
How?
The plan was to divide this huge complex into separate self-contained units, like high-end apartments or mini houses, one for each mother involved, giving them privacy, autonomy. But, and this is key, all these separate units were linked, connected by shared common areas, big dining spaces, and these large designated play zones just for the kids. The architecture itself was meant to enforce cohabitation shared space.
And the sources are pretty blunt about Zillis's own motivations in proposing this. They suggest it wasn't just about warm family feelings, it was strategic.
Oh, absolutely. The documents suggest her goals were very pragmatic, very strategic, went way beyond just fixing the family dynamic. The source material suggests the architectural plan was tied directly to securing her own long-term financial future, her kids' future, and also boosting her own professional standing within his, let's face it, highly competitive corporate world. It was almost like a business proposal wrapped in family language. The building itself was the contract, guaranteeing her place, her security in that whole ecosystem.
But the personal cost for him trying to implement this, even as it was being built, it was immediate, wasn't it? He's still pulling those crazy 120-hour weeks, and the secrecy around Austin meant he had to be invisible there.
Exactly. That workload, plus having to actively lie about where he lived, it led to intense psychological strain. More anxiety, sleep patterns totally shot. His visits to Austin, the few he made, became these fleeting secret missions.
Like covert ops.
Pretty much. He'd fly in on the private jet, often before dawn. Check on construction, maybe snap a few pictures for his records, then leave immediately, before anyone local could spot him, all to avoid exposing this massive secret project.
Which brings us back to that really painful statistic, the usage rate. He's so busy managing 6 companies, flying all over the globe, that despite spending billions to build the solution to his loneliness, his own schedule stopped him from ever actually being in it.
It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? He builds the world's most expensive, most technologically advanced family home, designed specifically to create connection, and then he makes himself absent from it. That average visit, maybe 6 to 8 hours, once a quarter, if that. His absence created this fundamental, unfixable flaw in the whole design. The guy trying to solve his family problem through building things was never there to live in the solution he built. You can't engineer being present.
So the design phase ends, construction is wrapping up, and then the sources suggest the whole nature of Project X changed. It stopped being just a fancy co-living space and turned into something else, something multiple sources called an experiment laboratory.
Yeah, that's maybe the most disturbing part. What really shifted it from just a fortress into, well, a kind of high-tech prison, the core of it became surveillance. Comprehensive, state-of-the-art surveillance.
We're talking cameras everywhere.
Everywhere. Hundreds of cameras, motion sensors, recording gear covering virtually every corner, common areas, private rooms. The security level was way beyond even what typical billionaires install.
But it went deeper than just keeping people out, right? The surveillance was internal, too.
Oh, much deeper. And this is where it gets really alarming. Testimony from Zillis herself, in later confidential discussions, confirmed it. On his direct instruction, hidden cameras, sensors, they were put even in the kids' own play areas, common rooms where they gathered.
Wow.
The official line was unprecedented security. But the sources strongly imply the real aim was monitoring behavior, collecting data, granular data on their developmental patterns, like they were subjects in some kind of ongoing controlled study.
So instead of being there as a dad, he set up the tech to watch them remotely, collecting data on them like specimens.
It certainly sounds that way. The house designed for connection was actually equipped and used mostly for remote observation and control. It turned the whole place into this technological panopticon, basically, monitored from thousands of miles away.
And that kind of atmosphere, being watched all the time, it must have just killed any sense of safety or comfort for the mothers, the kids.
Absolutely. The reaction was strong and immediate. Grimes, especially, she just flat out refused to move to Texas. Court documents show her calling the whole thing a creepy, frantic attempt at family control. The surveillance was the deal breaker for her, clearly.
And the older kids, the ones already feeling alienated, they weren't buying it either.
No, they saw right through it. Sources say Vivian, the daughter who disowned him, openly mocked it, called it a miserable control complex designed to just box them in.
Right.
Her brother, Griffin, felt the same way, refused to visit. They recognized it wasn't about love, it was about ownership. Trying to engineer closeness just pushed them further away, solidified the distrust.
And this fear, this discomfort, it even affected the younger kids who were there at least some of the time.
Yes, and that part's really heartbreaking in the source material. Younger kids apparently told their therapists they were scared of the robot house, because the cameras, the sensors, they were so advanced they felt like they were being followed everywhere. And Zillis herself, in her accounts, she mentioned the kids came up with a nickname for him.
For their dad.
Yeah, they called him the Inspector. Because he treated them less like kids needing affection and more like equipment, things to be monitored, maintained for peak performance.
The Inspector. Wow, that just says it all, doesn't it? About how his whole approach failed in that engineered space. He became a quality control guy for his own kids.
And the family's final say on it all came through loud and clear in the legal system. During that Grimes custody case, which dragged on into 2023, several of the children specifically asked for the compound to be sold. They said it made them feel scared, uncomfortable, watched, studied.
So the $7.2 billion project, it completely failed at its main goal.
Utterly. Only Zillies, who, remember, had professional and financial reasons to be there, initially moved into her unit. But even she reportedly started having second thoughts with the surveillance, the constant corporate feel. The other mothers just refused, point-blank refused to live there permanently.
So the house, built to cure loneliness with concrete and wires, it's mostly empty now.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A high-tech, incredibly expensive monument to a completely broken family plan.
Okay, so the family story is fascinating and sad. But that kind of money, $7.2 billion, it was bound to attract another kind of attention, wasn't it? Investigators.
Absolutely. The sheer scale of the finances involved inevitably led to federal scrutiny. And as they dug into the real estate deals, it became clear the Austin complex wasn't just some isolated, eccentric personal project. It was part of something bigger, a pattern.
Right. They started looking into Project 42, which sounds ominous. What was that?
Project 42 was an associated plan and potentially much more legally troublesome. It referred to building this massive, highly custom glass house, like an architectural statement piece, near the Tesla headquarters in Texas.
Okay.
And the core allegation they were investigating was whether Tesla company funds, company resources were being used to build this very personal house, essentially blurring that line between corporate money and his private real estate.
Ah, I see. And investigating Project 42 shed more light on the Austin network's funding, too.
Exactly. What became fascinating, or maybe alarming depending on your view, was the total valuation. The investigation suggested the Austin compound was just one piece, one very secret piece of this huge, sprawling real estate network across Texas.
The whole $7.2 billion portfolio.
Right, and the allegation was that this entire portfolio was financed, at least partly, through murky company expenses, complex stock deals, internal accounting maneuvers, using corporate structures for personal benefit. That's what led to the serious federal questions about fiduciary duty, ethical finance practices at his companies.
So this was way beyond just buying land. It was about building this ultimate infrastructure for convenience, for security, on a massive scale across multiple sites, all framed as security infrastructure.
That's the picture that emerges. The secret network wasn't just the Austin neighborhood. It reportedly included things like luxury safe houses, strategically placed underground bunkers dotted across Texas, all designed for rapid, secure movement, maybe even escape routes. The complexity suggests planning for, well, serious instability, all allegedly built using company money and people.
And maybe the most, poignant detail about how Project X failed its original mission. It revolves around the private runway, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. They poured huge resources into that specific feature. A private airplane runway, planned, designed, built specifically to service Project X.
For ultimate convenience.
Total convenience down to the minute. Allowed him direct access, bypassing commercial airports, saving time, and crucially, maintaining that absolute secrecy. The sources say the runway was finished, ready to go, in September of the year reported.
The final piece of the puzzle.
A final piece of the infrastructure puzzle, yeah.
And the painful irony, considering the billions spent on the family project.
It's almost hard to believe. The sources state that runway was never used. Not once. Not for a family visit, not for a personal trip landing there. It's only recorded use. Moving equipment, prototypes, personnel, between his different companies.
So it became a corporate logistics hub.
Exactly. Not a gateway for a family reunion. The ultimate infrastructure built for connection ended up serving only corporate efficiency.
And that usage pattern, it mirrors exactly what the leaked info said about his rare visits. They were clinical.
Precisely. Sources confirmed those visits, 6, maybe 8 hours long.
Yeah.
They were mostly about work. He'd spend most of the time on video calls, managing company stuff remotely. He'd walk through check rooms like production lines, is how one source put it.
Wow.
Rapidly reviewing construction, maintenance, like inspecting a factory floor, not visiting a home, then leave just as quickly. And this whole pattern, the funding questions, the secrecy, the way it operated internally, a lot of us got more backing from those Tesla board leaks in December 2024. They really highlighted the scale of this property portfolio, the Glass House project, leading to more internal questions.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. This whole story, this modern saga, right? Global icon, infinite resources, tries to use construction, technology to basically buy back human connection he feels he's lost. It has this incredibly striking historical parallel, almost a blueprint.
It really does. The Neverland comparison is almost uncanny, isn't it?
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, think about Michael Jackson. At the absolute peak of his fame and power, he spends, over $100 million transforming this huge ranch in California, over 1,100 hectares.
Into Neverland ran.
Into Neverland, a private amusement park. And by his own admission, it was meant to recapture his lost childhood, yes, but also to gather the people he loved, the people he craved connection with.
And the core belief, that central mistake, it links both these projects decades apart, doesn't it?
It seems to be the same fundamental belief. Both men, Jackson, and the Project X host seem to have believed that if they just built the perfect place, the most amazing, technologically advanced or magical environment possible, it would somehow compel the human bonds they wanted, whether that was family connection, childhood innocence, or just acceptance.
Build it, and they will come and love you.
Kind of.
If.
And the structures themselves reflected their inner needs, right? Jackson built literal fantasy roller coasters, zoos, theaters trying to escape reality.
Right.
Project X built literal control bunkers, surveillance, architectural boundaries, trying to impose a new reality. Both were trying to gain total control over an environment to manufacture an emotional outcome they couldn't get otherwise.
And the downfall, tragically similar, too. Both started with some promise, right? Kids visited Neverland, had fun initially. Zalis moved into Project X, fulfilling the plan at first. But both places ultimately just became symbols of isolation, didn't they? Control issues. And both led to serious external investigations.
Yeah, absolutely. For Jackson, the isolation, the questions around kids visiting, it led to legal troubles, eventually to public downfall, financial ruin. For Project X, the intense security, the surveillance, the murky finances that led directly to the federal probes into corporate finance, probes that still cast a shadow over the host's companies.
So the place built for happiness becomes the source of legal nightmares in both cases.
Exactly. Jackson got trapped in Neverland, lost in debt and fantasy, couldn't really face the world outside his bubble. And the sources suggest the host of Project X is similarly trapped now. Well, he can't really admit owning the $7.2 billion complex without blowing up his whole austere public image, right?
Raise the brand.
But he also completely failed to achieve the original goal, bringing his family together. So the house has to stay secret, stay empty, basically, to protect the corporate image. He's trapped by his own creation.
But there's a difference, too, isn't there? The sources highlight something distinct about Project X's failure.
There is a crucial difference, and it makes the Project X story almost emptier, in a way. Jackson actually lived at Neverland for years. He tried to inhabit his fantasy before it all fell apart and became this symbol of his decline.
Okay.
Musk built Project X, the most expensive family home ever, and then immediately made himself too busy to even use it. The sources paint this picture of him spending billions to build it, and then his schedule just prevented him from being there. It became this colossal tube of shattered dreams, as one source put it, right from the very beginning. Occupied by cameras and cleaning crews, not by the family it was supposedly for. Designed for a dad who was never home.
So we've followed this journey from a deep personal family crisis in 2022 through Operation Formation, ending up with this multi-billion-dollar engineered failure that's now got federal investigators looking closely. We've seen technical brilliance try and fail to fix human intimacy. What does it all mean for us? What's the final takeaway from Project X?
I think the final synthesis is just stark. It's a commentary on the absolute limits of wealth, of ambition, when you try to apply them to things you just can't quantify.
Yeah.
Here you have arguably the richest man in the world, a pioneer in space, AI, completely defeated by the most basic human challenge there is.
Yeah.
Just showing up, being present, emotionally physical.
The sources nail it down. Over $7.2 billion spent on the most high-tech family complex ever imagined, designed to force connection. And he visited maybe 3 or 4 days a year.
The takeaway is pretty undeniable, isn't it? Money and technology, no matter how much you have, no matter how sophisticated, they just cannot buy real human connection. They can't make up for the absence of a real father, a real partner, being truly present. Project X today is the world's most expensive ghost house, a powerful symbol of engineering failing when applied to the human soul.
Which really leaves a big question for you, the listener, doesn't it? We all face temptations, maybe on a smaller scale, to outsource our time, maybe replace presence with things, with gifts, with providing. We might not be building a $7.2 billion compound, but maybe we sometimes try to engineer our own way out of being present. So given the massive resources, the incredible technical skill poured into this project, this ultimate belief that infrastructure could somehow fix intimacy if the best engineering on Earth couldn't solve emotional absence. What's the true cost, the unquantifiable cost of our own time, our own presence in the relationships that actually matter to us?